Okay, I've done a bit of sanding, I've filled both areas. Still need to do a bit of hand sanding, but this is enough to do these side seams here. And importantly, I've rounded off this area here. There's a little bit of a gap here which you can see, which will need to be filled with a bit of thickened epoxy, but we've got a nice rounded join there which I can fill. I've started actually shaping this experimental lee board, and again I've smoothed and sort of rounded this seam here until it arrives at the back, where again there's some gaps that I'll fill with epoxy. But basically almost ready to start doing tape seams. Let's just get an overall picture here. There is the Outrigger ready to go. Okay, excuse the voice as I've got a mask half on here just while I record a quick bit of video. I am fiberglassing these seams. With this Outrigger, I'm choosing to just do the seams rather than the hull completely. If you're creating one without foam filled, I would recommend cover the whole thing with fiberglass, and you'll just about be able to split a 1 meter length of fiberglass down the middle and have this wrap over the whole Outrigger. You can kind of favour it being a little bit wider on each end, so slightly cut on a diagonal, and that will mean that the wider end up here, which is mostly sort of around about 2/3 of the way down, will have a bit more width. And then you reverse that back around for the other one because there's less need to cover wrap around all the way here. Now, of course, because I've put in a lee board into this one, it is a little bit different because I can't just drape the fiberglass over the top of the hull like I normally would. Now, if you're going to tape the seams, try and get them as straight as possible, as I've done here, because they will leave a little bit of an edge, and you can either sand that back or fair it, but if the edge is relatively straight, it should just pass straight through the water like lap strakes on a hull kind of thing. If it's all wavy, then that's going to create a bit of interference with the water. Okay, so here is our Outrigger, which has been fiberglassed, and I'll sand these down before I paint them, just to take a bit of these ridges off and smooth things out, and obviously cut off the excess around our lee board here that's embedded in the Outrigger. But before we start painting this, what I need to do is add on the brackets on the top that will allow me to attach the armour to the Arca. I'm about to put on these brackets onto the Outrigger. These, you will need something thicker than 4mm. I have some of this 12mm around. Previously, what I used, I'll show here, is just 2 layers of 4mm glued together. That's probably the minimum I would use, 8mm, so somewhere up from 8mm and not too heavy to make it, not too much to make it heavy. Now, putting them on the outside like this, actually I found was a bit problematic because you can see they're on an angle following the shape of the hull. And that creates an angle actually in 2 different dimensions, so it makes it quite tricky to sort of cut these shapes out so that they meet the Arcas well. There we go. So that involved quite a bit of messing around with filing and a rasp and sanding and that sort of thing. So I don't recommend doing it like that. I'll show in a moment more clearly what I plan to do with these, but just fixing them on the top like so, and using an epoxy bead, and I'll show that in a minute, but you know, essentially you want them on strong. Let's come around here where we don't have the shadow. You want them on strong, but one thing you're going to need to account for is the slight difference in the shape of the hull. So you can see here that because the hull is a bit of a banana shape, if you're going to sit them directly flat on here, you can see how that one is kind of changing the angles a little bit as to how it sits in there. So you'll either need to file them out a little bit so that they fit nicely, or take a little bit off the top of the shape here so that it actually orientates it back around straight. A little bit hard to show that, but you get what I mean. The front of the outrigger sweeps up, so you'll want to take a little bit off the front of the support in order for it to fit nicely onto square arches like this, or square arches like this. Now, if you choose to put in a round archer, then yeah, just take these shapes and you can drill a hole for the round supports that you're going to use through the center. You might extend them up a little bit so you've got enough top on these. It's really up to you, and again, depending on your kayak, cut them down however far you want to set the height of the armors. The more you cut out, the more they will raise up away from the water. So let me show how I'm going to fit these. Let's come down here into the shade again. So I've cut out just about a 15mm by 20mm shape here and taken the edge off it. That's going to just give me a little bit more purchase. I'm going to glue that to the side of my my, what do you call these, the brackets, and then that part I'm going to place inside of the armor here. So the reason is that makes it a little bit easier for me to put a bead of thickened epoxy on the outside and to then run tape. So essentially the strengthener on the inside is going to be this corner angle of timber, just giving me a bit more foot to bed it into some epoxy. Also it lets me put a screw down through the center of that into our support here, which we put across the top of the bulkhead. And similarly down on the other end here, when I fix this one on here, it's going to place this pretty damn close to the edge here like that. So again, I'll be able to run some epoxy, thickened epoxy along that corner, and even wrap my fiberglass tape down onto the sides, because essentially fixing this to the top here isn't really going to be strong enough. Remember, this is where at each point we've got our bulkhead with that that piece of timber which thickens it up, and then also around the outside here we've got the innals. Essentially fixing it to that is what's going to create some strength, those two fixing points. Oh, I should mention that this one here I'm actually making and fitting on an existing setup, so I need to actually make it fit this in retrospect. If you're building this from scratch, you'll be able to just put these supports, the brackets, onto the same place on your outriggers so that they line up, and then when you come to fit whatever type of arches you're going to use, that's when you can then make the holes in them and make the cutouts and that sort of thing. So that's why I've got my kayak upside down here with these arches fitted, because I'm fitting to an existing setup. Okay, these brackets have now been glued on, and I just wanted to share something so that you learn from my mistakes. Now what I did here was glued these quads, bit of quad, onto the side of the bracket, and I put those inside. As you can see, I did it all in one go. So I screwed and epoxied these bits of quad on here, and then I put a screw down through into the bulkhead here, or at least the piece of timber that was on our bulkhead. Now I'm going to be able to easily remove this one using a screw gun by just poking down in this direction, but these ones I've got no hope. I could maybe get a short screwdriver in between those two, but I suspect they're somewhat glued in there anyway. So this was a bad idea. What I should have done was, and I think I did do that on one of the ones up here. Yes, okay. What I should have done, if I'm going to do it all in one go, is either put through my screws from this side, in which case I can remove those from the quad easily, or if they do happen to get stuck in there, I can probably cover those over with a bead of thickened epoxy, or simply do them in two phases. So firstly glue the quad on there, and then glue them down onto the top of the kayak. So that's just a little bit of a tip there, the better way to fix those brackets on.